Man, this is it. This picture from the Blurbuster's law is going to tell you almost everything you need to know about motion clarity. And the only thing that's a little bit tricky to understand is the speed measured in pixels per second. So what does that mean? We have pixels on the screen and the UFO test is moving left to right. So how many pixels do you have on your screen left to right? So this is a 4K screen, for example, and I have 3,840 pixels. So if we are moving at 960 pixels per second, it is going to take 4 seconds to go from left to right. Because if I multiply 4 by 960, I get 3,840 pixels. If this was a 1080p screen, then I would have 1,980 pixels. So if I multiply 960 by 2, I get 1920. So what that means is that the UFO test would take 2 seconds on a 1080p screen. But the law is the same, no matter what is the resolution. The only thing that is going to change with different resolutions is this speed, how long is going to take for that UFO test to cover the screen width, okay? So let's say you have an 8K display. So on an 8K display, we have double the amount of pixels on this horizontal axis. So instead of 4 seconds at 8K, this same speed is going to take 8 seconds. You know, 8K, 8 seconds, that's what it is. So basically, that's how fast on your screen the UFO test is going to be moving, okay? So when you open that UFO test at that default 960 pixels per second, if your display is 60 Hertz, you're getting 60 FPS, this is how that is going to look considering that everything else is ideal. So this is the absolute minimum motion blur possible for your display. Okay, that's considering that the responsiveness of the pixels is ideal. So it cannot be better than this. It doesn't matter what the monitor companies are telling you that they have a technology, whatever, as a sample and hold display. So without using strobing or any other backlight manipulation techniques like blinking, without using any of those technologies to reduce the persistence, as a sample and hold, this is how good it's going to look at 60 Hertz, 120 Hertz, 240 Hertz, 480 Hertz, 960 Hertz, okay? This is it. So now you need 240 Hertz, 240 FPS to get this motion clarity on a sample and hold display. To get 240 FPS, it's not that easy. What about 480? To get 480 FPS, you know, that's playing CSGO with a 4090 and a 13900K. So it is insane to get this level of performance. But we will get there with frame generation. NVIDIA can double and quadruple the frame rate. Okay, that's coming next, and they're gonna charge you for it. And we can get there using asynchronous reprojection. And I have a link in the description of this video showing you a demo that you can download today and see with your own eyes how you can make any FPS be the maximum FPS you can get on your display. So basically, if your display is 240 Hertz and your GPU can only render 30 FPS, you can get 240 FPS delivered to your display with perfect input lag, and the only limitation is going to be some artifacts. So if you can get 60, you get less artifacts. If you can get 120, it's gonna be almost imperceptible. The artifacts is just not gonna be there at all. And you can test that for yourself today. That's how we are going to get 960 FPS on our games, okay? The GPU is gonna be able to render 100 to 120 FPS or maybe even more. And we're going to go from 100 to 120 FPS, we're going to go here using asynchronous reprojection, so we can get this fantastic motion clarity, okay? So it is that simple. As a sample and hold display, 60 hertz, 120 hertz, 240 hertz, 480 hertz, 960 hertz. And the future is brute force sample and hold display. So we want a display that is 960 hertz so we can get 960 FPS on HDR with full brightness, okay? Because when we try to reduce the persistence, when we try to reduce the pixel visibility time by blinking the screen or scrolling or backlight strobing, any of those techniques, we are going to lose brightness. So we lose picture quality, okay? So for example, if we want to go from here, which is 240 hertz, 240 FPS sample and hold, if we want to go from here to here, we are going to lose the brightness in half. So we are cutting the brightness in half just to go from 4 milliseconds of persistence to 2 milliseconds of persistence. Because what we are going to do is we are going to have this frame visibility time cut in half, and the other half is going to be black, okay? So we can do that, for example, by drawing the picture left to right, top to bottom. After we have half of the screen draw, then we're going to scroll that down and the rest is black, scrolls that down and the rest is black. And based on the Talbot-Plateau's law, the brightness result, so the perceived brightness, is going to be the average brightness in time. So when we reduce the persistence in half, we are reducing the brightness in half. What about going from here, from 4 milliseconds to 1 millisecond? We are cutting the brightness in 4, okay? We are reducing that brightness in 4 because we are reducing the persistence in 4. So it is almost a linear relationship. If we go from here to here, we are dividing by 4. We are dividing by 4 the brightness too, okay? Is that something bad and unusable? Not at all. For example, next year, we might be getting a display that's 4K, 240 hertz, which is going to look like this as a sample and hold, but also with the option to run that same display at 1080p, 480 hertz. So it looks like this at 1080p. So now, if that display is capable of doing 480 hertz, we could have 4K with 480 hertz PWM, pulse width modulation. And we can go from here at 4K to here with the same 4K resolution. How can we do that? Very easy. With 480 PWM, the display can draw the picture left to right, top to bottom, and after it has 25% of the screen draw, it can scroll that down and the rest is black, scroll that down and the rest is black. And here's the thing. On an OLED display, you know that the smaller the window size, the more brightness the display can push because the rest of the screen is black. So you have power limitations, okay? And heat to prevent burning and all of that. So for example, next year, we might be getting a monitor that's 31.5 inch, 4K, 240 hertz, with a peak brightness of 1300 to 1400 nits. So let's see what happens with that display. Let's say that that display can give you 1300 nits on a 20% window, okay? So instead of doing a 25% window, let's do a 20% window. So we get better than this. We could have a better. Of course, it cannot be better than this because this is the minimum motion blur. But by having a lower persistence, we can move faster, okay? We can move faster. So for example, if we move at double the speed, having 1 millisecond of persistence, the UFO test is going to look like this. If we move at 4 times the speed, having 1 millisecond of persistence, the UFO test is going to look like this. Okay? Do you want to move at 4 times the speed? Absolutely. On a 4K screen, 960 pixels per second is going to take 4 seconds to go from left to right. So if we move 4 times faster, that means that we are moving at 3,840 pixels per second. So the UFO test is going to take 1 second to go from left to right. Are you moving that fast when you're playing your games? Absolutely. When you move the camera, you're moving super fast. So having a display that is 0.25 milliseconds of persistence is gonna be fantastic, okay? Because it's going to be like almost perfect. You know, you can move at 1 second left to right and it looks like this, okay? So let's take a look at what can we get with that brightness next year. Let's say we have 1300 nits. So we have this WRGB OLED with the MLA, basically the G3. The G3 can do 1300 nits. So let's say that new display next year can do 1300 nits on a 20% window. Okay? So what can we get with that? Okay, well, 1300 nits on a 20% window. We are going to lose 80% brightness. Okay? Because 20% of the screen is going to be visible, the rest is going to be black. So the brightness reduction is going to be 80%. So we do 1300 nits multiplied by 80 divided by 100. So then we are losing 1040. So 1300 nits. So basically we can get 260 nits. Okay? So 260 nits is going to be the brightness we can get with that display doing 20% window size, okay? So in that way, we can improve. So with 20% window size, we are reducing the persistence 5x. So we are improving the motion clarity 5x, okay? So we can get this brightness, 260 nits, full screen. You can get this brightness full screen, no problem, because the display can do 1300 nits on a 20% window, okay? And at 240 hertz, we could even go lower than that. We can do less than 20% and go even much better than that. So this is going to be possible already. Less than 1 millisecond of persistence. Next year, it could be possible. LG just needs to implement black frame insertion. It's that simple. So let's see exactly what would be the persistence of that display. Very simple. 4 divided by 5, 0.8 milliseconds of persistence. Okay? That's fantastic. 260 nits. That's not low. That's actually higher than what we need for SDR. So what if we reduce it even more? Let's say instead of 20%, let's do 10%. And if you're concerned about flickering, 20% of the screen at 240 hertz, at 240 FPS, that's not gonna flicker, because that is like 40% at 120, and the LG C1 using OLED Motion Pro High is doing 38% based on my testing, and you cannot see flickering at all. No flickering is gonna be visible whatsoever. Okay? But if you go even higher, let's say you go, instead of 20, let's do 15%. Okay, let's do 15%. Let's calculate with 15% what would happen. So what would be the brightness loss with 15%? With 15%, we would lose 85% brightness, okay? So if we calculate 85% of 1300, well, actually, yeah, 1300. Let's do 1300 nits. So let's say this displays like the G3, 1300 nits on a 15% window. Totally possible, not a problem at all. So let's calculate what is 85% of that. So 1300 nits multiplied by 85 divided by 100. So that is 1105. So that is the brightness loss. So then let's do 1300 minus that. So we get still 195 nits. That's perfect for SDR. Absolutely perfect. So what is 15% of 4 milliseconds? Let's calculate that. So 15% multiplied by 4 divided by 100. 0.6. So that is almost half. Almost half. So what that means is that on a 4K screen, for example, now the UFO test can take only 2 seconds to go from left to right and still look almost like this. This is fantastic. 2 seconds, we're not talking about something that we're not going to need. 2 seconds is like 1, 2, 1, 2. So the UFO test can move that fast on a 4K screen and still look clear, perfectly clear. Minimum motion blur. Man, they can do it. LG can do it. And I would pay for that day one. Take my money. LG, they listen to this. This is what they care about. I would pay my money. And I would make like 100 videos about that monitor. I'm going to tell you, buy that. I will recommend it. I will give you the best settings. It is possible. They can do it. And they know. They know. Do you think they do know? They don't know this. Of course they know. And they can do it. So they should definitely do that. So yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions. And if you have any questions, also, please, LG, Asus, MSI, all these companies, please do not put a matte finish, an anti-glare coating, an anti-reflective surface treatment on those monitors. Please, okay? Do not ruin a fantastic display with an anti-glare or a matte finish. Please, I want a glossy finish with perfect blacks under any lighting conditions. I want a mirror, okay? I do not care about any anti-reflection handling that is going to destroy the picture quality, okay? You should watch the TV on a dark room anyway, but I want a premium coating. I do not want that crappy matte finish. Please, I am not gonna pay for that crap. I'm gonna crap on that monitor. I'm gonna say that they just completely destroyed a fantastic product, okay? So yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions and if you have any questions.